Yo, good morning, world. What's happening, world? Name's Raheem Flowers, and I want to touch on a few key topics. That being of Jussie Smallhat, the whole situation with Zion, or Zena, or Zana, or Dwayne Wade's child, and Gabrielle Union, this whole decision that they forced upon, as well as Young QC. A lot of madness going on in the world. See, you got to understand. I'm going to start with Jussie Smallhat. You see, I find it ridiculous that this is still an ongoing story. It's been going on since last year. And this fool was able to do what he did and hire some Nigerian dudes to make it seem like he was being ambushed for a quote unquote homophobic reason. And they want to push this. They push this upon the world. And, you know, it gets to the point now where he should have been locked up, not in jail, but in prison for these false accusations. The same way a lot of females who are a part of this Me Too movement. You see, that's what makes things like rape such a hazy situation. Because here you have a few women, and you know, they mess it up for every other woman out there who legitimately goes through rapes and being abused sexually in any sense of the word. See, all these false accusations and Boy Who Cried Wolf make it harder for people to have any form of empathy. That's why I don't have much empathy for a lot of women these days. And that's why when I look at what is considered the plight for these homosexuals, I can't look at it as a plight. I look at it as a crave for attention. And not only just a crave for attention, but it's like a part of this whole New World Order population control agenda that's been going on for the longest. Look at the whole situation with Zion and how they turned him, how he had a sex change as a child, not even a teenager. Maybe 13, but I don't even know if even that. And Dwayne Wade didn't do this on his own accord. We know that bitch, that evil witch. No, I ain't even gonna call her witch. That evil bitch, Gabrielle Union, did this. You see, I saw a picture. It was like a meme or something where Dwayne Wade was wearing leggings and Gabrielle Union was wearing like khakis or like pants you would see men wear when they have their, you know, their blue collar jobs. And it just shows you, even within that joke, there's truth. There's a lot of, people complain, and especially these feminists complain about gender roles, but it seems like there's a gender swap, and they're not complaining about that because, you know, it's not about equality, it's about power. Women are attracted to power. All women. There are no exceptions. Now the way they yearn for power and what attracts them within power always differs. Sometimes it can come from an internal, spiritual, interpersonal place, i.e., being confident, i.e., somebody who's commanding respects and often receives it, or somebody who has attained things like fame and money and militant might, social status, things of that nature. Man, I can't even be mad at the young boy, man. Or they want to turn Zion, they just turn Zion out into a young lady, and that's all fucked up. If I was in Dwayne Wade's situation, just like I stated in my previous video, I would have checked the shit out that bitch. Oh, and the situation, speaking of something that happened that's really demented when it comes to family, I think about that other dude, Young QC here from Chicago, who murdered his mother in 2013 for, I believe, like a life insurance. And he was stunting all on social media. And, you know, you can tell that he didn't have any masculine male figure in his life. You can tell by the way he behaved. And a lot of these dudes here in Chicago don't. Me being born and raised here, I could see it, and I could tell you that off of observation, you know? Like, you could see that there's a strong degree of mental illness that goes on that nobody wants to talk about. See, many people in the so-called black community love to talk about things like incest and pedophilia, and white people and so-called Caucasians are the ones to go out and kill their family. Well, guess what? Young QC did it. As a matter of fact, I ain't gonna say no names, but I had a friend of mine, this lady, this girl that I knew since the 8th grade, who got murdered by her own brother. And, you know, we had to follow this no snitching policy. You see, letting domestic terrorists be the guardians of the communities and perpetuate the whole Thuga and Kali Ma dynamic and approach, that's what's making things worse. So for all you simp ass niggas calling a black woman God, she's Kali, or she evokes that. Look at Gabrielle Union, and look how much Dwayne Wade is simping and deifying her to such a high and pathetic degree. And then I think about Jussie Smallhat. He's able to lie and he gets a slap on the wrist. I don't care what that other Smallhat, that former mayor of ours, Rahm Emanuel, was looking to do. Because look, think about it this way. Even though he was saying what he said and it came off as if he's condemning the men, perhaps he didn't like what he did. I'm not going to say that he didn't, but you see, I can only take what he did with a grain of salt. This father, Benjamin Emanuel, was a part of a terrorist group in what they call Israel, known as the Irgun, a terrorist Jewish group, or kind of like I don't know if I call it espionage, but yeah, they were on some other stuff though, and they abused their militant might. So am I gonna really take what he says about from one Smallhat to another? Am I gonna take that seriously and into a high consideration? No. See, people play a role. Sometimes people have to make it seem like they're pinned up against each other, and there's often infighting. There's a lot of infighting that goes on. You see, and I know that I'm digressing for a moment, but a lot of white people have realized that they've been used by many of these Jews, many of these Smallhats who were a part of the transatlantic slave trade. And now they want to go and condemn these people. I don't get it. It's all funny to me. So when you go around talking about, this is why I don't even get into that. I don't even get into the whole being mad at white people, because being mad at white people is retarded. Real talk. These Caucasians that you see simply have the illusion of power. They don't even have anything under their belt when you look at the grand scheme. And if it seems like they do, that's because they're really being spoon-fed by the puppeteer Smallhats that you see run the media. But then again, so like I stated, we can't even say with absolute certainty who's really behind that chair. Could be a so-called black man or a so-called Moor. While you have fools like Sweet Marcus praising them and talking about more us, and even going out his way to have a more us app, and even doubling down on it and coming out with documentaries like Hidden Colors, talking about how great they are, but not talking about the contributing factors and what the genesis to chattel slavery was, to the transatlantic slave trade was, which was like the Barbary slave trade, or white slavery, or, enslaving white women and using them as sex slaves, and then having all that karmically come back. Yup. I know I digress for a moment, but there's a lot of dysfunctionality that goes on this world, and that's because people don't want to be honest with themselves and look at themselves more objectively, and just look at the situation for what it currently is, and looking to change it and change ourselves as well, So until then, this cycle will continue to perpetuate. We don't have to wait for somebody to be the next Malcolm X. We don't have to wait for someone to be the next Nat Turner. We don't have to wait for the next Robert Small when we could be the next ourselves. We could be the next ones to create brigades and revolutions, and the ones to bring about extreme reformation. Yup. So I'm gonna leave it off at that. Peace out, one love, people.